The ancient feast of St. Nicholas unites us to our brethren in the East, where he is much venerated. Also in certain parts of Europe, where this is the day when presents come to the little ones. Klaus in German is the popular form of Nikolaus. And so we could think for a few moments on the wider family to which we belong and from which we have come. One day, some years ago, there was a bus travelling in some country area behind the Iron Curtain. It was in Russia itself. And this well-formed communist was sitting therein, fairly close to the front of the bus. And at a certain point, he noticed someone sitting there beside him that he hadn't noticed before. A venerable old man with an equally venerable beard. And so he thought to himself, here's a good chance to take the mickey out of these who might still have some faith. And so he pulled out his communist aces and started to criticize and tear apart. The old man beside him listened with patience, completely unruffled. At a certain point, when the other had finished exuding his venom, there was an almighty braking of the bus and nearly a full accident, a collision. Everyone on the bus made 3 signs of the cross in the reverse, as they do over there. And the old man calmly looked at the one next to him and said, "Did you observe that, good man? Everyone on the bus except yourself made 3 times the sign of the cross. I tell you, young man, the reign of Satan over this country is soon to be brought to an end." And with that, he disappeared. News travelled like wildfire. It was, obviously, St. Nicholas, still looking after his dear Russia, traditionally the most mystical country on the planet, which has given many myriads of saints to the Church, hidden and invisible, and more in the last century through which we've just gone than in any other. You know why, don't you? The many, many, many hidden martyrs of the concentration camps and torture chambers of the Iron Curtain. One day, I found before me in my cell, by divine providence sent for me to read from the superiors a book on the hidden martyrs of the communist regime. A book full, and all the gory details, lest we forget. And many things happened behind the Iron Curtain which could not be divulged. Icons would do things. I've told you before, I think, or some of you anyway, the story of this icon which before the gaze of these poor sisters who were trying to survive in the communist regime and were in chapter to discuss what to do, when before their eyes it started to do what? Clean itself up, because it was covered in the soot of the prayer of the candles of the centuries. So from top, slowly to the bottom, the angels cleared it up and just left their signature on the bottom right-hand corner. They left it black as soot, like the rest, before they got to work. Icons. Just the other month, I was there before an icon in the Holy Land, and there was blood over the cheek. And I asked, or we asked, the good monk looking after it, it was the church which they have where the Lord had been imprisoned, what was the meaning of this? Calmly he replied, it's a replica of the miraculous icon of the monastery of Irviron in the holy mountain, Mount Athos, where centuries ago somebody had come to attack and started to damage the icon, which duly reacted in its own quiet mode. I may have told you before how things would happen when, in the very austere circumstances, the faith would be handed on. How rings, for instance, because they couldn't get a priest to bless a marriage, they would pass on the ring of the grandparents who had once received a blessing and hope that would count. Children are known to have baptized another child in one event. They didn't know what to do with the holy water they just made, as it were. Another child was brought up partly by her grandmother and therefore had the faith, because they're the ones who handed it on. And the teacher in school knew it full well and was at this child every opportunity in class. Eventually, she got her, as it were, against the wall. Okay, if he exists, tell him to come here. And what did she do? Yeah! She turned round to the others in class and said, we'll do that! We'll call him all together. He listens to the prayer of children. And so they did. Come, Lord Jesus! And the door gently opened, and in came a beaming child, surrounded in a globe of bright white light. He said nothing, but beamed and smiled at the children who knew that he listened, and quietly went away. Off she went, the teacher, to the headmaster and explained what had happened. Come this way, dear, you need attention. And she was locked in, for the rest of her life possibly, a lunatic asylum, where all she could say was, he came, he came, he came. This, my friends, is what has all been going on for years and years behind the Iron Curtain. Perhaps right now is going on still behind the bamboo curtain down in China, still fairly resistant. St. Nicholas is still around, and we are part of a great family. We sometimes think we are great sheikhs, but remember the martyrs of the communist regime. Remember, my friends, that we may be in agony where the tip of our small finger is hurting, but they know what pain is about. Let's get things straight. Only in the beyond do we see our signs.